Hello, everyone, and welcome into Friday's edition of To The Point podcast. Everybody's doing well. We're on a little earlier than usual today, but doing that because we have a lot to get into, but also we're going to be doing a podcast tomorrow. So Con would give a little bit of a longer runtime. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., there's going to be a kind of a special Masters podcast roundtable. I've been kind of setting that up throughout the week. So we're going to do that tomorrow. Can't wait. That'll be live on Facebook, YouTube, like it is every other day. So we're going to do that tomorrow morning. That should be a ton of fun. Seamus will join, Cole, Casey, and we'll talk about the Masters, amongst other things. I'm sure I have some things planned. Seamus's birthday's coming up, so I might have a gift for him, maybe. Maybe we'll unveil that in the show. Who knows? But it should be a fun morning tomorrow. So 9 a.m., hope you guys can join because I think it's going to be a fun show. If you can't listen live, listen to it on the podcast, subscribe, Apple, Spotify. Leave us a review. Those help, and would appreciate, always appreciate any feedback, positive or negative. Hey, just the fact that you're listening means a lot to me. So thank you. Where to start today? I mean, the Masters day one. We're into day two as we speak. We got Major League Baseball started, and a few surprises for me with looking at the schedule. And I watched a lot of baseball last night. There's also some NBA news as the playoffs are kind of rounding into form, matchups that we might see. A couple of big games in the NHL, a few big ones tonight, and obviously a big night by Austin Matthews. That seems to be every other night now. But let's start at Augusta. I start with the Masters, and through 2 days, I think the biggest story is the conditions. It has not been an easy. Augusta has not been playing like it normally is. Normally, you see low scores. You see guys have awesome days, shoot 5-6 under. That's not happening here. Guys are struggling. Really crazy wins. I think Augusta wanted to make the course tougher than you think because hole locations are very difficult. Guys are struggling to make birdie. Guys are settling for pars, and that's really a win through the first 2 days at Augusta. You're seeing a lot of guys that say, if I can make par on this hole, I'm going to settle for that and live to fight another day. But also, a lot of big names that are really out of the tournament, if you will. As we go down the list, you have Victor Hovland, who's 4 over through 14. He's likely not going to make the cut. Jordan Spieth, 4 over through 14 today. He's likely not going to make the cut. He's never missed a cut at Augusta. Might be a first for him. You got Bryson DeChambeau at 6 over. Xander Schauffele at 6 over. So Justin Rose, the guys that Gary Woodland, a former champions, 8 over. He's off the course for the day. So a lot of past winners, a lot of great players struggling in the field. And as we currently stand, Danny Willett, the former Masters champion, is leading at 4 under. He's through 6 holes today, so he still has a lot of golf to play. But like I said, the course is playing extremely difficult. The best round today through a guy that's played it is Charles Schwartzel, who's from South Africa. He shot 3 under today, and he's tied for second in the tournament. But you're not seeing a lot of great days from guys. Morikawa shot 2 under. He's 2 under through 16. That's a good day. It's a good day. He's 1 under for the tournament, but he's 3 strokes off the lead. You'll take that with the conditions the way they are. But you look at guys like Johnson, Harold Varner III, Hideki Matsuyama, who's only played 3 holes today. He's 2 under through 3. You're going to hope for just if Matsuyama could play around where he pars the rest of the holes, he'll take that. If you can go into the weekend, you're 2 strokes off the lead, you feel good about yourself, you're playing well. I think the way the conditions are, you're going to accept it because the weather is supposed to improve as we get through the weekend here. It's supposed to be warmer tomorrow, less wind. The conditions the rain's going to settle in. But you look, Scheffler is tied for second. You have Joaquin Niemann. Sungjae Im is there. He's off the course. He shot 2 over today, so he didn't have a great day. Danny Willett, 400 through 6. DJ is 1 over today. He's through 16. He's still 2 under, so right there. You look around. I mentioned Morikawa. Corey Connors, the Canadian. He shot 1 over today. He's 1 under for the tournament. Cantlay is 1 over today. He's -1 for the tournament. So not a lot of low scores, but right now it's just about surviving and getting to tomorrow, getting to moving day, where you can hopefully have some better scores. Weather's going to improve. The conditions won't be as tough, and you can hopefully make up for it with some birdies tomorrow when the conditions aren't as terrible as they are right now. So looking around as well, obviously Tiger Woods, I mentioned yesterday how he couldn't have had a better round. He was under par. He looked good. He looked comfortable. I did think he grimaced a little bit. But today was the more important day because he wanted to see how he looked physically, how he responded after his great first round. And so far today, Tiger is 3 over through 4 holes. So he's not having a strong start to the day. You know, he bogeyed 1. That's always a tough hole for him. But again, he's only through 4 holes. He still has a long way to go. We'll see if he can turn it around. But again, we'll track him throughout the podcast. But today was the more important day for me. Yesterday was great. It was a positive sign. But can you get through the round physically today? Can you play consistently well? And so far today, it hasn't gone his way. That doesn't mean he can't, turn it around. I mean, he's Tiger Woods. It's very low scoring. Again, if he can maybe get a birdie or 2 down the stretch, be even par by the end of the round today, he will be in good shape going into the weekend. And it's hard to put, make you feel any better than having Tiger Woods in contention. But, I mentioned a lot of guys are going to be gone. Rory McIlroy's 3 over. He might not make the cut. Patrick Reed is 3 over. He's done for the day. Hall Koepka is 4 over. Zach Johnson, the former champion here, is 4 over. So this is going to take a lot of good players out of the field, and we'll see who can pick up on this. But Danny Willett just bogeyed on 7, so you currently have a 4-way tie for first with Sungjae Im, Joaquin Niemann, Schwartzel, and Willett, with DJ, Cam Smith, Tony Finau, Hideki Matsuyama, Scotty Scheffler, and Harold Varner III trailing them by a stroke. So it's low scoring. It's tough conditions. Guys are really close on the leaderboard. But I hope it stays like this. I don't want to see I'll say this. I don't want to see a guy jump out in front, have a big lead. Because when we come on the air tomorrow morning, when I start watching golf tomorrow, I think it's always better when the cut line is close to the leaderboard and you could see, well, maybe this guy could get back into contention. Like Justin Thomas shot 4 over yesterday, but he's already 2 under so far today, but he's also one of the best players in the world. You got to hope that he can rebound. If scores continue to stay low, Justin Thomas is in good position to make the cut, potentially do some damage this weekend. And I'm hoping that, because I'm looking at me and Seamus's draft, which we'll touch on tomorrow. I think we're going to get Cole and Casey involved in that. So maybe we'll each pick some players. We'll see what happens there. But I had Justin Thomas, Shea, John Rahm. JT is 2 over, Rahm 1 over. I had Rory McIlroy. He's 3 over. Might not make the cut. So not looking good for the home front. He has Patrick Cantlay. Cantlay, I believe, is 1 under in the tournament. So he's in good shape. I had Sammy Burns. Sammy Burns is definitely going to miss the cut. Last time I checked on old Mr. Burns, he was 5 over, I believe. He's 6 over through 17. He's missing the cut. So there you go. Shea picked Cam Smith. Cam Smith is 2 under through 5. He's in good shape. Great opportunity to win the tournament. So better draw so far for Shea. Then I had Daniel Berger. He's even, still right in the thick of it. So we'll see what Daniel Berger can do the rest of today. He's got a lot of holes to play. He should make it to the weekend, barring just a deadly round. And Seamus took Victor Hovland, a.k.a. Rick Hovland, as I like to call him. And Victor is 4 over through 14. So he's no lock to make the cut either. So the way it looks, I might have 2 guys miss the cut depending on how Rory plays his last couple holes here. Maybe he can find it. Sam Burns is missing the cut, so he's done. I'll be dropping him. I'll be picking up a new player tomorrow. And then our long shots, Harry Higgs, who I took as my long shot, he is 1 over through 9, 2 over on the round, but I'll take that. Harry Higgs, he was 1 under yesterday. Tougher round so far, but he still got the back 9. We'll see what kind of damage Harry Higgs can do, the big grizzled veteran. And Shea took Lee Westwood, the veteran. And Lee Westwood, I'm looking for him here on the leaderboard. He can't find him now. He took, let me see, Lee Westwood. Must be having a pretty good round if I can't find him. Lee Westwood. Anyway, I can't find him for some reason. If I do find him, I'll let you guys know, because I know you guys are so interested in Seamus, and he's 2 over, shot 2 over today. So Lee Westwood will make the cut. So both of our long shots will make the cut, oddly enough. So that is where our draft stands, because I know it's so captivating, so interesting. But like I said, we're going to get Cole and Casey involved in that tomorrow. Drop some players, pick up some guys, and maybe I know we got a couple degenerates that are going to be on the show tomorrow when it comes to gambling. Seamus and Cole both love throwing out bets. They normally don't win, but even better for Casey and I, because maybe we can pick up some cash. So we'll do that tomorrow morning. We'll keep updating the leaderboard as the show goes on. Baseball. Opening day has come and gone. It's still opening day for a number of teams: Dodgers, Yankees, Red Sox, Blue Jays this evening as they welcome the Texas Rangers. But one thing I think we have to remember about opening day, about the first game of the season for every team, if you're a fan of the Atlanta Braves today, if you're a fan of the San Diego Padres, if the Blue Jays lose tonight, I think the thing you have to remember is it's one game of 162. And what leagues do is they promote opening. It's opening day, and it's a big game, and it really is. It's not a big deal. Well, if you lose the first game of the season, it's no big deal. It really isn't. It's not. It's blown up to be something very, very important, but it's blown out of proportion. You just need to breathe. Like I was already seeing today, the Angels, it's worry in Los Angeles because Ohtani only went 4 1/3. And, Mike Trout only went 1 for 4. The Angels lose game 1. Well, the Angels shouldn't be worried because they lost their first game. The Angels should be concerned because your lineup has very little depth. It didn't matter that you lose the first game. If you look at your team before the season and say, okay, we have these weaknesses, I don't think we're going to be that good. Winning the first game of the season to rectify all those things that you're worried about before doesn't make them go away. You're still going to have those warts. You're still going to have those worries when it comes to your team. So, yeah, I just think don't fret about the first game. Like Blue Jays tonight, they play Texas. I think that's a fun first series. Simeon comes back to Toronto. Get to see Corey Seager play. They get to go up against John Gray tonight, who's with Texas now after he's with Colorado for a long time. And Texas, I don't think it's going to be a great team. They spent a lot of money, so I think they have high expectations. But there's a team that could win their first game of the season. You beat the team that is the favorite to represent the American League in the World Series, and that's blown out of proportion. It's not true. It's not the real story because you won one game. It's not the be-all, end-all, but we'll let the writers, the fan bases think that, and then they'll come down to earth and jump on our side of the equation. But, for the Blue Jays, I think this should be an exciting time for Blue Jays fans. I think this shouldn't be a season where the Blue Jays have many spurts, have many doubts, because to me, they are head and shoulders the best team in the American League. I mentioned yesterday, I like the Chicago White Sox a lot. I think the White Sox have really good pitching. I like their young players. Tony Russa's a veteran manager. You can take him or leave him, but he's been in big spots. He's won World Series, so you got to like the cut of his jib. But looking around, you're like, well, I love Vladdy. I think Vladdy should win the MVP this year. Was very close last year. But he should be a heavy favorite to win it this year. You keep looking around. Well, Bo Bichette, you might worry about his defensive abilities at shortstop, but let him play his way into that position. Let him, hopefully, that he can prove himself, that he can play every day. He can be your shortstop of the future. If he's not, then you can address it at a later date. I look at their pitching. You got Kikuchi, Manoah, Barrios. They have a staff. Kevin Gausman's coming over. I don't think Kevin Gausman will be as good as he was last year in San Francisco, but if he can be his first couple years in Baltimore, you'll take that from him. But they have a solid team. Their bullpen is much better than it was. Ben Murray mentioned yesterday about how they have Trevor Richards. They got Adam Simber. Romano, the big X factors if Julian Merriweather can stay healthy, because I think he could be the best member of the bullpen if only he will stay healthy this season. But they got a good team. The Blue Jays have a really good team, and it's not, well, do we have a good team? Are these players going to hit? You have it. Yes, would it be nice to have a bona fide second baseman? Yes. I think that's the one glowing weakness of their team, because who's playing second base on a day-to-day basis? And I think I also look and say who's playing right field on a day-to-day basis, because I wouldn't want it to be Teoscar Hernandez. And the same thing, I wouldn't want Kevin Biggio to play second base every other day. Teoscar Hernandez, you want him playing because he's got a great bat. I think the guy can hit 35 to 40 home runs. He's great. He drives in runs. He's a clutch hitter, so you want him in the lineup. Defensively, he's not great in the field. Ramel Tapia, who they acquired from the Rockies in the Randall Grichuk trade, is a pretty good fielder. But you don't want him taking at-bats. He's not an everyday player. He's very much like Santiago Espinal, who is going to be their super utility man, who can play third. I think he'll play more second this year because you have Matt Chapman at third. I don't see Chapman getting a lot of days off, but I think you'll see Espinal play a lot of the infield positions. He had a good spring. He seems to be in good spirits, seems to be a better player than he was last year. Maybe he can find some pop with his bat. But every team has warts. And I think these teams that we're talking about have more than the Blue Jays. The Yankees have more question marks than the Blue Jays do. And that's how you kind of have to look at it. The Yankees have Garrett Cole. You feel good about him. They got Judge. They got Stanton. You can't really feel that comfortable with those two guys because of their inconsistency and because of their injury history. You can feel good about the Dodgers, of course. The Rays, they always seem to find guys that just have spectacular seasons, but maybe it comes to an end. Maybe they've had all the success they can have with the investment that they've made, and it just falls apart for them. Maybe it does. I looked today, and I was watching some of that Red Sox-Yankees game before we went live, and I'm starting to look at the Red Sox lineup. Again, their pitching staff is a big question mark, and that's the one thing that really I don't love about their team. But I think it's better than the Yankees, personally. The Red Sox are currently beating the Yankees 4-3. Garrett Cole only went 4 innings. Not a great day for him. And he let up 3 earned runs, so not a great start to the season for Mr. Sticky Stuff himself. But I like the Red Sox batters better. I mean, I look at it, you got Alex Verdugo, who I think is a really good player. Dahlback, you can hope can round in. You got Story. Rafael Devers, I think he's another guy that will compete for the American League MVP. He improved defensively. He's in much better shape the past couple of years. He's a great bat. Doesn't hurt that he plays. I think for all these guys that play in the American League East, it helps you for your MVP case that you play in this division. Because if you're a Red Sox player and you play your home games at Fenway, that's 81 a year, hit the ball to right. It's basically you hit a fly ball to right, it's going over the wall. Yes, the green monster's in left, but you hit that ball right, 220 yards, it's over. It's not hard to hit home runs in Boston. Yankee Stadium, hit the ball to left. It's like being outside and throwing a little Nerf ball into the wind. It's going to carry. That's Yankee Stadium. You don't have to have any power. Juan Pierre hit homers in Yankee Stadium because down the left field line, it's a joke. In Toronto, it's not deep. It's not that hard to hit dingers into a short center field. So these parks are designed to help guys hit home runs. So for guys like Rafael Devers, like Vladimir Guerrero Jr., I don't see Bichette as an MVP candidate. I saw he was on FanDuel. I wouldn't even throw a buck on that. If he does, okay, I'll come on here and say I'm wrong. But I'd be stunned if he even got in that conversation. Other than that, can Judge get in there? I don't trust him enough to stay healthy to stay in that position. It's the Jays, Red Sox. I think it's going to go Jays, Red Sox. I think both teams will make the playoffs. I don't think all four from the American League East are going to make the playoffs. And because I think we're going to see the Jays win the East. And I usually don't make predictions, but I've been really doing a lot of baseball studying the last couple of days, and I'm starting to get into it. So I think the Jays are going to win the East. In the American League West, I like Seattle a lot. I'm still going to say Houston, edging them, but Houston. And then in the Central, of course, you have the White Sox, who I think are really good. But then it's like, well, there's extra wildcard teams this year, right? There's 3 different teams. So I think for sure the Red Sox are a wildcard team. So Red Sox, 1. I believe the Mariners are going to make the playoffs. That's 2. No particular order. These are just teams I think that are going to make the playoffs. And the third team, I like the Tigers. I don't know if they're too young. What is going to help the Tigers is that they play in the American League Central. The Guardians stink. The Royals stink. The Twins, I don't think are going to be very good. So if the Tigers can get hot, they need to win those division games. Because while, I think the Jays will win the East, Red Sox, but the Yankees and Rays have to play each other. Yes, they get to play Baltimore, but while those 2 teams are playing each other, Tigers get Twins, Guardians, Royals. You get some favorable teams in there that will benefit you, quite frankly, that will make your life easier. So I wouldn't be surprised. I think we'll see. Yeah, you know what? I think we're going to see a team from each division, which is crazy. Make the postseason in the wildcard slots. I think you're going to see the Red Sox, Mariners, and Tigers. So that means the Yankees and the Rays will not make the playoffs. And that's about as hot a take as I make, because I don't like hot takes. I'm not a hot take guy. This is just how I view it, because the Yankees have to play the Red Sox a ton. They have to play the Rays a ton. They have to play the Blue Jays a ton. And not to mention, this is a wild card into this, in a wild card race, so good double entendre there. But this is something that is going to happen this year. You can agree with it or not. That's beyond. This is just the facts of life. You have to be vaccinated to play in Toronto. And again, I'm not going through the COVID thing. It's over in my world, but that's the rule. I don't see that changing in the near future. I'll look up the Blue Jays schedule the first time these teams come up, but I know Xander Bogaerts apparently is not vaccinated. We heard Aaron Judge say, I don't think Aaron Judge is vaccinated. So where does this go? If they can't come up to play, if Aaron Judge and say Stanton, because they seem to be lockstep, can't come play in Toronto, are the Yankees, who are the Yankees? The Yankees aren't beating the Blue Jays without just two guys. Is Garrett Cole vaccinated? He likes sticky stuff, but would he use, would he get the jab? I don't know. Assuming makes an ass out of all of us, right? So I think it's going to be super fascinating, but I'm rooting for competition. I think the Tigers will be a good team. And maybe I'm thinking too much. I got two teams that have done nothing in the last number of years to make me think that they should be any good. Mariners and Tigers. But I just have a feeling. They just got Austin Meadows. The Tigers did from Tampa Bay. I like Austin Meadows a lot. You look, Meadows, Javi. They need Javi to play better. He's over 3 for today, 2 strikeouts. Candelario, Jonathan Scope, Badu, Torkelson's a rookie. They only got 2 hits so far today. They're young. They're going to need to find it. If they can get good pitching, they got Eduardo Rodriguez, but Drew Hutchinson, former Blue Jay, two clean innings this afternoon. So they're a work in progress, but I do think they'll be fun. And the Yankees, again, they have the COVID issues. They always have injuries. You're relying on Severino to stay healthy. You're relying on Germán to pitch consistently. So, again, I think the Blue Jays win the American League East. That's easy. I believe the White Sox win the American League Central. I believe the White Sox are the biggest threat to the Toronto Blue Jays and representing the American League in the postseason. And then I have Houston narrowly winning the AL West over the Seattle Mariners, because I think the Mariners are legit. I think they're going to be a really good team. Excited to watch them. Might watch them tonight. And I have the Red Sox. I have the Mariners. I have the Tigers making the wild card positions with the expanded playoffs. Not the Yankees, not the Rays. When you hear this podcast, feel free to chime in the comments. Maybe you'll disagree, but that's the fun of this. Now in the NL, and I went through the division just, but I really started to think about it. The East, I have the Atlanta Braves. Again, they lost last night, but I'm not going to overreact like I mentioned off the top. The Atlanta Braves. The Central, I have the St. Louis Cardinals, because the Cardinals are legit. And then in the West, I have the Dodgers, because why not? So then in the wild card spots, in no particular order, I have the Padres. I have the Milwaukee Brewers. And the Giants were such a good team last year. And they had everything go right. I mentioned this yesterday. But I don't bank on it happening again. Just for some reason, I smell a rat. And when you smell a rat, you give it cheese. So I'm going to say that the Philadelphia Phillies will make the playoffs. Bryce Harper will get his Phillies to the postseason. Despite their lack of defense, I like their starting pitching enough for them to be a wildcard team. So Atlanta Braves in the East, Cardinals in the Central, Dodgers in the West, Padres And the Padres could miss easily because Tatis isn't playing for 3 months. They got their injuries, but I think they can pull it together. Brewers, what's great, the Brewers are good, but also you're in a division with lackluster teams. That's the biggest benefit you can have. They got St. Louis, who's tough. Other than that, they lost to the Cubs yesterday. We don't overreact to one game, onto the point. Phillies, I think they're a pretty good team, but I just think I think the Giants are going to be the team that had such a great season last year. They're going to fall off the most. I think they'll miss the playoffs. So I think the two biggest things out of this is San Francisco Giants are going to miss the playoffs, and I believe the New York Yankees are going to miss the playoffs. Those are the two biggest things I can pull out of this. And these are just my thoughts. This isn't a hot take. Just, Yankees missed the playoffs. Oh, you're a Jays guy. I'm not. I could give a shit if the Jays, it'd be good content, but it'd be just as good a content if the Yankees are playing. So before we get off baseball, because there's still a lot to go into this. Obviously, the Braves got their banner last night. Didn't go great for them, the game, obviously. But what was interesting today is it came out prior to first pitch between Red Sox and Yankees was that Aaron Judge and the Yankees were trying to get a contract extension done for the big man. And Aaron Judge had set a deadline. The players set the deadlines. Now, I want a deal before the season or I'm not negotiating in season, which is a stupid ploy because that is not true. You see deals done mid-season, but players put up this phony deadline. They put up this phony gate, and they pretend like if they're offered a better deal tomorrow, they won't take it. But whatever, we'll let the players do that. Management does it too. It's stupid. But it was reported that Aaron Judge was offered a 7-year contract worth $30.5 a year. That's $213.5 million over 7 years for Aaron Judge. I'm going to say this. I can't believe he didn't take this contract. I mean, I can believe it, but I also can't because what I love about today is player empowerment. I think in collegiate sports, it's great. I think in some senses, you're seeing guys say, I don't want to play here. And it's justified occasionally. You have the James Harden issue in the NBA where he quits on teams. And that's obviously a negative of today's age. But there are benefits to it. But what I do think in this day and age is what we see from athletes more often than not is a lack of reality. Aaron Judge is a fantastic baseball player when he's on the field. And when is the operative word here. Aaron Judge is a great home run hitter. For his size, a great fielder. He has good instincts, makes great catches at the wall. He's a stud player. But is Aaron Judge always available for the New York Yankees? No. I'm sure many people would argue that Aaron Judge not being available is part of the reason why the New York Yankees haven't been to a World Series in the past 3 to 4 years, really since 2016 when he came through the ranks and he's come on the scene as a great player. So just for reference, Aaron Judge has missed at least 25 games in every season he's had since he was a rookie. But there was years he missed over 100. He missed 65. It's never been less than 25. And that he takes off days in there. He's not always playing in the field. He'll DH. So he's a brittle guy. And $30.5 million is not chump change. $30.5 million to stay in the Bronx, where apparently he loves it, over 7 years. Now, there are some really stupid contracts handed out in baseball. We see them all the time. Players complain about no money, yet players that don't deserve 7-year contracts, players that don't deserve 150, 200 million, seem to get it. I mentioned Chris Bryant yesterday. It's one of the stupidest contracts I've seen in recent memory in all of sports. But the fact that Aaron Judge had 7 years on the table, 30.5 a year, and he turned it down is asinine to me. And maybe I'll be wrong. And he'll go out there and test free agency, and he'll find a suitor. He'll find somebody that gives him a 7-year deal worth more money, or 35. But is it going to be in an organization that is always competing? Are you going to have to go to Kansas City or go to Minnesota? Go to a team that make you their token star while you lose game after game? But also, I think what has to happen for these organizations is eventually they're going to learn. In hockey, there are still bad contracts, but there are far fewer than there used to be. If you remember that crazy offseason where teams spent an enormous amount of money on players like Kyle Oposo, Franz Nielsen, Louis Eriksson, Milan Lucic, it was a plethora of used garbage that they spent money on, a plethora of afterthoughts, a plethora of been there, done that, has-beens that were the best names available, but just because the guys were the best name available doesn't mean you should hand out 6 to 8 year contracts for these types of players. And since then, I think teams have started to learn their lesson a little bit. You still see bad contracts handed out, but they're normally shorter term deals. They're normally not for these long, crazy amounts. The days of Rick DiPietro getting a 13-year contract after playing a cup of coffee in the NHL are over. Funny enough, I saw him on the mothership last night. He's now an analyst. Good for Rick. But eventually, these baseball teams have to look in the mirror and say, we just handed Chris Bryant a ton of money. What did he do for us? You got to look and say, wait, how much is Marcus Semien and Corey Seager making here? Because I'm just going to guess. This is way looking down the line. But I think by the time Corey Seager and Marcus Semien's contracts are done with the Texas Rangers, I don't think they would have even been in a World Series, let alone win one. So you go through all this money, you jack up your payroll, your pitching stinks, and yet you're spending a whole lot of money for what? For what? To pretend, to give off the illusion that you're going to be competitive? Aaron Judge is a really good player, but there's no way in hell I give him a 7-year deal. No chance. He might want it. That doesn't mean you get it. And I think in baseball now, it's just, okay, you want 7 years? You're up for free agency? We're going to have to give it to you. The smart GMs won't do this. Like, I love Fernando Tatis Jr. III. He's my favorite player in baseball. I'm bummed he's not playing. I watched the Angels-Astros last night at 11:15 because I would have watched the Padres-Diamondbacks before because I love to watch Tatis, but he wasn't playing. So I didn't care. I'm like, okay, I want to watch Ohtani pitch, and he was DHing in the same game. Pretty cool. The Ohtani rule. They ultimately lose, but you get my point here. As much as I love him, I'm not giving him a 13-year deal. We don't know what he is yet. He was originally a shortstop. Now he might be in the field. He's got motorcycle accidents. He's injured constantly. That signing could be just a massive blow to the San Diego Padres' future. You still have Eric Hosmer on the books. Will Myers is still on the books. Those contracts aren't getting any better. Now, you can't fix everything in one day, but it doesn't look good there. So it's a tough position because Aaron Judge is a really good player. He's a cornerstone of the Yankees. He's been there a long time. But you also, I think, if Brian Cashman is offering him this contract. He's been the GM there for some time, I think close to a decade. if the New York Yankees miss the playoffs this season, like I am predicting, and I might be wrong, maybe they make the playoffs, but let's say they miss the playoffs. I believe Aaron Boone will be fired 100% because a lot of fans were saying he should have been fired last year. I think that was a little premature, but I think if they miss the playoffs this year, he's gone. That's what they do in New York. Again, it's Hal Steinbrenner, not George, but they'll still make that decision. But then also, you got, is Brian Cashman retained? Because he's the one bringing in the players. He signed Garrett Cole. He traded for Giancarlo Stanton. He's got Aaron Judge. So would you want a GM that might be fired as soon as October signing a guy to a long-term deal to 7 years that the next GM has to deal with? Because if the Yankees miss the playoffs this year, are the two twin towers in the outfield, although Stanton is pretty much a universal DH now, are they back next season? I'd like to say no, because I think the new GM says, we're not winning with this core. You've had it long enough. You've had Chapman you've had him since 2016 when the Cubs won the World Series. It's 2022 now. You haven't got to a World Series with these players. It might be time to change it up. So he's a great player, but him turning down this contract may be the biggest blessing in disguise for the New York Yankees ownership. Because Brian Cashman might not be making the decisions going forward. Aaron Boone might not be making the decisions on the field going forward. Because if there is a down season, if you do miss the playoffs, there's going to be likely new stewardship. And I'm not so sure that those people put in charge are going to want Aaron Judge on their team for the long term. So again, he's a good player, but I don't love his injury history, and I'm not so sure he's on the New York Yankees in the long run if things don't go the way if things go the way I think they're going to go this year. I don't think Aaron Boone, I don't think Brian Cashman are running the ship there in a few months. Just to check on the Masters leaderboard right now, Danny Willett is back in front. He's 4 under through 9. You got Sung J M, Charles Schwartzel at 3 under. Taylor Gooch is 2 under. You got Tony Finau, 2 under. DJ is 2 under. Cam Smith, Joaquin Neiman, Hideki Matsuyama, Scotty Scheffler, Harold Varner III are all 2 under. You got Morikawa, Connors, Bill Zalatoris, Kokrak, Kevin Na. So a lot of guys, they're at 1 under. And then an even bigger group at even par as we currently stand. So a lot of golf to be to play, but now Danny Willett is back in front after he dropped a stroke earlier. In baseball, you got the Red Sox 4-3 over the Yankees, top of the 8th inning. White Sox lead the Tigers 3-1 in the bottom of the 7th. Phillies lead the Athletics 1-0 bottom 2nd, and a scoreless game between the Baltimore Orioles and the Tampa Bay Rays down at Trop in Tampa Bay. So looking forward to the games tonight. Like I said, it was strange opening day for me because they didn't have the Dodgers. They didn't have the Yankees. They had the Mets, but they didn't really put them on prime time with all their new players, although the Mets kick off the Apple TV coverage tonight. There's a couple games a week on Apple TV. The Mets, they pushed Scherzer's start till tonight so they could put him on Apple TV, which is funny enough. So he'll go tonight against the Nationals. So they're starting up that partnership. The MLB is with Apple TV. But lots of interesting games tonight, and we'll touch on it as we go forward here. We'll get to hockey in a minute. Also this weekend, you got the Masters, baseball starting. You also got UFC 273 this weekend, where you got a couple title fights, and then you got my favorite, the fight I'm looking forward to the most in the welterweight division. But you got Alex Volkanovski against the Korean Zombie this weekend. I think Volkanovski will win this fight relatively easily. It wouldn't surprise me if he doesn't win. If he just wins by decision, that seems the way he wins fights. He's one of the best fighters in the world right now. But Zombie's a tough son of a bitch. I'll give him that. He's a heavy underdog. But when it comes to FanDuel and things of that nature, but I think Volkanovski comes out on top. We might after this fight we might get Volkanovski uh, Holloway 3, which I think is fitting despite Volkanovski winning the first two fights because I think Holloway won the first one. And again, that's up to the people that score the cards. And I think they've done a poor job of scoring those fights in the past. I think they screwed Max Holloway out of that first fight. It gave Volkanovski. You never see that the judges usually score one in favor of the challenger when it's a title fight. They give it to him on points, which is, like I said, it's so rare. And they really stole a title from Holloway. But that's, I usually hate trilogy fights, although sometimes they do pay off. I think the fight between Davison Figueiredo and Brandon Moreno, all three fights were really great. The third fight was great a couple months ago. But I think we'll see Volkanovski come out on top in that fight. He'll defeat the Korean Zombie, and we might get to see Volkanovski Holloway 3 later on this year, potentially August, September. We also got Petr Yan and Aljamain Sterling, and this is the second meeting between these two gentlemen, and it's been a long time coming. They've had fights canceled, COVID issues, visa issues, but now these two finally get to settle their score. They fought, it was like March of 20, it was a long, long time ago, but Petr Yan was beating the hell out of Sterling. It was so clearly, I think Yan was very close to either knocking him out or he's going to choke him out. Either way, Sterling was in a lot of trouble. And Yan lost his focus a little bit. I don't think he thought about what he was doing, but Sterling was on his knees and he kneed him directly to the head. It was an illegal knee. And we've seen in the past where Anthony Smith, who commentates, great fighter, was fighting John Jones, and he got kneed in the head. And by rule, it's a disqualification, and the win goes to your opponent, or in that case, the championship. But Anthony Smith said, no, that's not the way you win a title. It's a soft way of winning. They restarted the fight, and eventually he ended up losing. So he could have been a champion, but he decided not to go this route. Well, Sterling, he rolled around the cage, acted like a little petulant child, quite frankly, and ultimately got the trophy, did interviews despite, having a concussion, all these different things. And it never sat well with me. Petr Yan is one of the best fighters in the UFC. Strong punching power. Really he's a Russian fighter that will take your head off. He's surgical with the way he fights. And we get to see these two. I think Sterling is way more motivated than he was the first time. I've seen him. He's shredded. I mean, he's absolutely ripped. So I think he's going to be ready for this fight. I think he wants to prove to people, because all he's heard about for a number of years, including from me, is that he shouldn't be champion. That, he took the small man's way out of it. He didn't continue the fight, or he just didn't say, okay, let's start over, whatever. He took a belt that he didn't earn. And I think he wants to go and beat Petr Yan. But, he can put all those doubters aside, because if he can defeat Petr Yan this weekend, not only is it the biggest win of his career, but I think it puts him on a new pedestal. On the pound-for-pound rankings, he's given some respect, because Petr Yan has beat some of the best fighters he's beaten some great fighters. He beat Jose Aldo. I thought he ended Jose Aldo's career when they fought. To see Aldo come back, win multiple fights against really good opponents, is something else for that veteran. But Yan beat the hell out of him. It was not even close. He really came on the map during that fight. And he beat Corey Sandhagen. He's beaten TJ Dillashaw. So he's got some good names on his hit list. But Sterling has fought his way to this position. And if he could beat Petr Yan, it will put him on another level. He'll be regarded as a true champion, and he'll be a made man, because You just got to win that one big fight. For Israel Adianza, he beat Robert Whitaker. He knocked him out. I think it changed his entire. Obviously, he became champion, but it changed his career because it just said, "Holy shit, this guy's not just a guy that can go the distance." He knocked out one of the best fighters in the world at that time in Robert Whitaker. Since then, he's only lost when he moved up weight classes. He's never lost otherwise in that division. He's beaten Robert Whitaker twice. He's a made man, and he signed big money deals with UFC. So that's the second of the title fights. I'm actually looking forward more to the Jan Sterling fight than Volkanovski Zombie. But if I could only watch one fight this weekend, and if they said, okay, one fight on this card, you have to pay for the card, but you only get to watch one fight, I would be watching the fight between Gilbert Burns and Khamzat Chimaev. And the reason I say that is because I believe Khamzat is maybe the most interesting fighter in the entire UFC. He is unbelievably talented. He's athletic. He's got punching power. And I truly think, you always hear this where guys say, oh, guys are ducking me. Nobody wants to fight. I don't think many guys want to fight Khamzat. I give Gilbert Burns a ton of credit because I don't think he's going to win this fight. I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't go past the first round because I think that highly of Khamzat. Maybe Gilbert Burns is thinking, and he's right, if he wins this fight, he will get a rematch with Kamaru Usman. Kamaru is scheduled to fight Leon Edwards later this year for the welterweight championship. So he'll have to do with him. But if Gilbert Burns can win tonight, he will get another chance at Kamaru. He was knocked out the first fight. But to me, Gilbert is likely thinking, to get back in that position to fight for the belt, I need to beat somebody incredible. I need to do something that nobody else has done, and I need to go fight Khamzat Chimaev. And I don't like his chances, but Gilbert Burns does have great punching power. He can knock guys out, but Khamzat is just another animal. There was a fight, we fought Yingling, and he literally picked him up and walked him over to the corner where Dana White was sitting so that he could look Dana in the eye while he choked out Lee. Lee tapped out, but he wanted to send a message to the UFC, I'm here now, I'm back. It looked like he might not return. He had a tough bout with COVID where he thought at one time he wasn't going to make it, but he got through it. He's back now. And I just, there's great guys that are compelling. Conor McGregor is compelling for the right or wrong reasons. Again, he's not a good fighter anymore, but people like him, proper 12, whatever, drink the whiskey, his stupid Twitter beefs. He's compelling. He's got content. George St. Pierre in Canada wasn't necessarily a guy that provided great content when it comes to on the mic or how he presented himself, but he was dominant in the octagon. He beat the crap out of people, and every time he went in there, you're going to get everything George had to offer. Michael Bisping is great on the mic, but I also think he was great in the ring. He's a super cocky Englishman, and he was a good personality because he just went in there. He expected to win every fight. He was cocky. He was like Chael Sonnen in that way. But so that those guys, there's names that just transcend the sport, and I think Kamaru is the best pound for pound fighter in the UFC right now. But I'm even starting to doubt if Kamaru Usman wants to fight Khamzat Chimaev. I really don't think he does because I think Khamzat can beat him. I really don't think there's anybody in that division that Khamzat can't beat. I think Khamzat looks at Israel Adesanya and says, I can beat him. He's just that super freak athlete where he can move up weight divisions. He can beat him. He can fight Usman, who's just dominant in the sport. He's ran roughshod over that division. But there's guys that come along every so often, and they're just so special. Habib Nurmagomedov was one of those guys. John Jones was one of those guys. I think for a long time, I think people thought Conor McGregor was one of those guys. He never was. You don't lose that often, and you're that special of a talent. He has a special mouth, great promoter, but Dana White's a great promoter. You don't see him stepping in the octagon. There's a difference. But I believe Chimaev, I think there's a 50, 20, 40 to 50% chance that he is the welterweight champion by the end of 2022. I think the only reason he won't be is that Dana White says, no, I want one more fight before he goes for the belt so we can get a little more money and more juice on the pay-per-view from him fighting. Or that Usman fights too late into 2022 and they can't set up a fight in time. Or it's early 2023, maybe it's right after Christmas 2023, and they go at it. But it's fascinating. I think it's going to be a good pay-per-view. We've lost a few fights. Kelvin Gastelum was supposed to be on the card. He got injured in training. You had a fight drop today, a heavyweight fight on the prelims drop out between Rosenstruck and Marcin Tibera. So a few fights have fallen off the card. But I do think UFC 273 is going to be fun. I think it's going to be entertaining. And I can't wait for it tomorrow night. So you got the Masters tomorrow. You got UFC. You got baseball. Hockey. I mean, it's like Ice Cube said, today's going to be a good day. So I think tomorrow will be a fun day in the sports world. NHL news today. Couple big news out of the collegiate game where it's Frozen 4 week. We had the semifinals yesterday where Denver beat Minnesota in overtime to advance, and I believe Minnesota beat Minnesota State to advance to the national championship game. That'll be Saturday night. But a pair of Michigan teammates, Kent Johnson and number 1 overall pick Owen Power, has signed entry-level contracts with the teams that drafted them last season. So that means Kent Johnson will report to the Columbus Blue Jackets, and Owen Power has signed with the Buffalo Sabres. And Johnson's signing is not surprising. I think he went back to Michigan because Power was going back. A number of guys, Johnson and Power, obviously played at the World Junior Hockey Championship. They played at the Olympics. They've had quite a season. But Power is interesting, and I have to give most of the credit that Power said, I'll go to Buffalo, because nowadays it's not just, well, you got drafted by the team, you show up. I really don't think that anymore. College players have a lot of control. They can hold out. They can just say, I'm not going there. Guys get traded. Jack McBain got traded to Arizona from Minnesota. It can happen. You think of Jimmy Vesey and all these type players. Adam Fox got traded twice before it ended up with the Rangers. So stuff can happen where the team that drafts you, you don't even play a game for them. But Owen Power, I believe when he got drafted last year, he had real doubts about playing for the Buffalo Sabres. And who could blame him? Buffalo was in a state of disarray. Since then, they've traded Sam Reinhart. They've traded player after player. Linus Ullmark got traded to Boston. Rasmus Ristolainen went to Philly. Anyway, they traded everybody. They kept Dahlin, but they really tore it down. And this season, although the Buffalo Sabres are not even going to be close to making the playoffs, I believe this was a positive season for the Buffalo Sabres. And the reason I say that is because the Buffalo Sabres have built a culture, and they had a number of great seasons from important players when it comes to their future. Tage Thompson was a player included in the Ryan O'Reilly trade. He has 30 goals this season. He's having a career year. Jeff Skinner, a guy they couldn't get rid of, they decided not to buy out. He's going to have he might get close to 40 goals this season. He's rejuvenated his career. Rasmus Dahlin's going to have a career season. He's seen to find his game. In net, you're still looking, but Craig Anderson was a good veteran. He was a good signing. I think the guys really liked him. They got to hope that Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, who is a first-round pick from Finland, can develop, can be their goalie of the future. But you have a number of great seasons from important guys, their core. And I believe Don Granato is a really good coach. Don Granato has been he was there last year on an interim basis when they fired their head coach. And I think just the team bought in and they made a smart decision, which they rarely do in Buffalo, and they kept him. He's built something there. Buffalo has 63 points. That's not good. They're currently 23 points out of a playoff spot. But you're starting to see signs. Thompson, Skinner, Kyle Oposo is having he might have 20 goal season. He's been a fourth liner forever. He's had a good season. But you're seeing guys play well. And that's all you can really ask. To see a Tage Thompson break through. Dylan Cousins is there. They have a young nucleus of players. They're competitive. They've beaten the Toronto Maple Leafs twice this season. They beat Carolina on Tuesday night. I mean, looking through their team, Dylan Cousins has 36 points in 69 games. Not great, but I still think he's a good player. He's an NHLer. Dahlin has 44 and 70. Casey Fitzgerald, he might be a player. Peyton Krebs, he's played 47 games. He's got 18 points, but he's starting to play better. He's been a good fit. Alex Tuck was a great trade for the team. He's a guy that came in, brought stability, but you look at it here. Tage Thompson, 32 goals, 25 assists, 57 points. Jeff Skinner's got 30 goals, 24 assists for 54 points. Tuck has played 40 games. He's got 33 points. He's been phenomenal. So is it completely fixed? Absolutely not. Not even close. But you look, Jack Quinn. They got JJ Peterka. They need guys to hit. Peyton Krebs. They need some of these youngsters to be good players. But Owen Power is coming to a team. I seen him play at the World Juniors. I seen him play a ton this year. The guy is an absolute stud. Dahlin might not be the first overall pick defenseman that they thought he'd be. But if Power is, then he doesn't have to be. He can be a good 1B. He could be a number 3 defenseman. I equate this to, I look at New Jersey similarly. Nico Hischier was drafted first overall. Is he a first overall pick talent? No. But if Jack Hughes can continue to get better, if Jack Hughes' his numbers continue to improve, he's the 30 goal scorer. If he can get to 85, 90 points, then Hischier can be a good second line center, and it doesn't look as bad. It's not like, well, Hischier isn't what he thought he'd be. He's a disappointment. But Buffalo still has a lot of work. But I mentioned they have a goalie prospect. Doesn't mean he'll hit, but it's something. They have guys that are playing well. You got some youngsters there. And overall, it was a successful season. And I believe that Don Granato sold. Don Granato coached a long time in the NCAA. And I think that had a lot to do with it. And because I don't believe you just go to a team just because their season's over, just because you're making entry-level money. It's not going to change your life. You can hold out for the best position. Adam Fox got traded from Calgary to Carolina, and he got traded from Carolina to New York. Like it happens. You can pick your destination if you want, but in this case, Owen Power is going to Buffalo. This is a massive, massive day for the Buffalo Sabres. They have so little to cheer about. Again, they have a few bright spots this season. But to get Owen Power in your building, now it's about putting him into the core, putting him into your system, getting him the leaders in front of him, and him buying into it. Because if he walks in and he smells that it's still the same dysfunctional mess that it has been for over a decade with one of the worst ownership groups in NHL history, then he'll be gone before, so quick you won't even be able to think. But you have the opportunity to show him what you can do. He's in the door. He's your property. Realistically, you have him for 3 seasons. He's under an entry-level deal. He makes no money. So you have a number of seasons to improve that roster so that when he's at his apex, your team's competitive and that you can get better. Now, trusting the Buffalo Sabres is crazy. Trusting the Pagulas running a hockey team is crazy. They still have a lot of work to do, but this is a big day for the Buffalo Sabres fan base to get Owen Power, to get him on your club, to get him in the door. You have to feel good about that. Kent Johnson joins Columbus. Good player, really good passer, smart, I think really smart hockey player. And he joins, Cole Sillinger and Chinnikov and Peak. They got some young players in Columbus. They're going through this phase where they had Duchesne, had Bobrovsky, had Panarin, had an older core, and now it's moving it. They're all moved out, and now it's a younger team. They're going to hope that some of these youngsters can continue to improve, and that Johnson's part of the solution going forward. Now, just to make a point here, both Johnson and Power were on Team Canada's World Junior team, as I just pointed out. So that means that they would be eligible to play for Team Canada in the World Junior Hockey Tournament in August, scheduled in Edmonton, Alberta. I don't believe Owen Power will be playing for Team Canada. Kent Johnson, I still think is up in the air. But Johnson and Power both played at the World Juniors, even though it got shut down, and the Olympics last year. They played a lot of international hockey. Then they played their college season. You got to remember, these guys weren't playing a lot of hockey before because of COVID. So if I was a betting man, I don't believe either player will be allowed, per se, to play for Team Canada at the World Junior Hockey Championships. I have my doubts that either one will be there, because their organization now that they're under team control will say, we don't want you to risk to get injured. Power is clearly on the team next year. Maybe they're thinking, well, Johnson will be a guy that has to play in the American Hockey League for a little while in Lake Erie. But I just don't see Buffalo saying, yeah, we're going to send a first overall pick to the World Junior Hockey Championships. We've seen it before where first-round picks aren't going. There's just no chance. You're a part of our team. We're not risking you tearing your Achilles while you're playing for Team Canada when you don't have to. Get ready in the summer for training camp. Come in here, make the team, have a great win Rookie of the Year. Do whatever you have to do. But I think I would say it's a lock that Owen Power is not at the World Junior Hockey Championships. Kent Johnson, I'm still thinking he's up in the air, but he's played a lot of hockey. He's played a lot of international hockey. And maybe I think you also got to think about the player too. Maybe they just want to focus on their pro career. Junior's done. They're both gone from school. Maybe they both just say, you know what, I'm done with this part of my life. I want to play against the big boys. I want to be an NHLer. Going and playing in the juniors doesn't really help me. They'll both be 20. So maybe that's just something they don't want to do. We'll see. But I think Power, no chance he's back. So I think that opens up a defenseman slot for somebody that is looking to make Team Canada's team this summer. And Power won't be the only player that isn't on the team that was there originally in December, in my mind anyway. Do I think they'll ask everyone back? Yes, probably. I'm not confident about that, but I think they'll at least send an invitation to everyone that was there, because I think they know the backlash, if they don't, will be just tremendously awful thrown at them. But I don't think Power will be back. I don't think Mason McTavish will be playing at this tournament. I don't think it's a lock. Kent Johnson. A lot of these guys are done junior. It's one thing if you can go back to junior and you're like, okay, well, you have another year. Power is going to be playing in the NHL. Kent Johnson's going to be playing in the American Hockey League next year or the NHL. Luca Cormier for New Brunswick is going to be playing in the NHL or AHL next season. There's a difference when the other alternative is junior and you're not on the NHL team. You're going to be playing pro. You're in our system. You're an injury away from being called up. We send you back to junior. We know you can't play for us the entire season. So if you do get injured, yes, of course, we're upset. You're our prospect. Maybe that hurts us long term. But when it comes to this season, no harm, no foul, because you couldn't have helped us anyway. That's the business of hockey. It can get cruel. It can get dog eat dog, whatever the stupid saying is, world. But that's normally how it works. But I think Don Granato, through everybody today, Owen Power should be excited. Obviously, he's an NHLer. But the person that deserves the most credit, that deserves the biggest pat on the back in the Buffalo Sabres organization is Don Granato for making them somewhat appealing, making them at least serviceable that you want to go play for that horrible organization. You're starting to see them turn it a bit. They're not close to being a playoff team, but they had some positive players. They seem to have a culture set. Kudos to Don Granato for getting that done for the city of Buffalo. I'm not going to have as long a show today because, like I said, we got the show tomorrow, so we're going to do that tomorrow morning. But before we go today, I wanted to touch on a few things. Rangers beat the Penguins last night. Beat the Pens for the third time in 3 weeks. Incredible, first of all. Shesterkin, phenomenal again. Waves goodbye to the Pens. And I would love to see them play in the first round. The Rangers are still only 2 points behind Carolina, so they're still right in the thick of it. Although Carolina does have a game in hand. But New York is right on their heels. But I think Shesterkin is so special. And I look at that team, the way they play with speed. I just think they're a tough matchup for Pittsburgh because Shesterkin's better than Jari. And the Rangers' power play is so lethal. And when Jari is going to have to be so special just to stay in the series, he did it once this year. It was a Saturday afternoon matinee, and Pittsburgh beat the Rangers 1-0. And Jari was phenomenal. But I don't know if he can do that for an entire series. But the fact that the Rangers and Pens have played 3 times in the last 3 weeks, and the Rangers have won all 3 meetings is pretty incredible. Those are really 3 strong wins. They're on a tear right now, and I'm sure they're hoping that they can win the Metro as they get into the last 10 games of the season down the stretch here. Austin Matthews. Kudos to him. 2 goals last night, gets to 56, passes Rick Vive for the least all-time goals record. And I said this on Tuesday, so this isn't me just basing it off last night's game or Tuesday. I felt Monday he had the Hart Trophy signed, sealed, and delivered. I believe it was over. But the fact that he is going to likely, he's got 56 now. Draisaitl only has 50. So he's 6 clear of the next closest guy. He's going to finish likely top 5, maybe even higher than that in scoring. It is incredible. So he's having one of those special seasons. And like I said, if you're a Leaf fan, enjoy it. You're winning games right now. You have a 5-point buffer on Tampa and Boston. They're playing just to see who will play you in the first round. With that big of a lead, I don't see the Leafs choking it up. I mean, they do play their nemesis Montreal on Saturday, who always seem to find a way to beat them. But tonight's game is big. Bruins are in Tampa Bay, and as of they're both played 70 games, and Bruins have a tiebreaker. So if the playoffs started today, it would be Bruins going to Toronto. We've seen that a few times before, but big game tonight for those 2 teams to see who can stay ahead of each other, where they fit in the standings, because otherwise, Carolina would play Tampa if the season ended right now, which would be a crazy series. Florida would get Washington, Toronto would play Boston, and New York would match up with the Penguins. Out West, big game tonight. Wild at the Blues. These 2 teams have been locked at the hip all season. It's almost a foregone conclusion that they're going to meet in the first round. Just, Nashville and Dallas aren't able to catch them. Nashville won a couple in a row. Roman Yossi has another spectacular game last night. But these two heavy teams, I want to see how St. Louis responds to Minnesota's physicality. St. Louis is only a point back of Minnesota because they've gone on the tear lately. Minnesota does have a game in hand, but this game is important just for seeding. Who will get home ice in that first round is imperative. I think both teams really want it. St. Louis does have playoff success. Obviously, in 2019, they won a Stanley Cup, but they lost in the first round in the bubble, and they lost the first round last year. So they haven't had a whole lot of playoff success in the last number of years. So, they need to – having home ice is really important. Minnesota doesn't have a whole lot of playoff success. They got a young team. They got to hope that they can find it here, pull it together. But that's a big game tonight. Edmonton defeats LA last night. They now have a 3-point buffer and a game in hand. Kudos to Edmonton. I think Jay Whitecross, since taking over, has done a good job as head coach. I don't know who their starting goalie is going to be come playoff time. Mike Smith got the start last night in the win over LA in LA. But obviously, they got a buffer. They got 10. LA's only got 9 games left. They have 10 left. And they're not completely out of catching Calgary, although I don't think they will. Calgary has 11 games left. They've won 3 in a row this week, going through California and getting the sweep out there. But for Edmonton, just play well down the stretch here. McDavid continues to put up really impressive numbers, just quietly, because it's been the Austin Matthews show. But McDavid continues to score. He's got over 40 goals, leads the NHL in points. So where does he finish in the Hart discussion? That's what I'm interested in. He's not going to win it. I know that. But does he get nominated? Because now that Edmonton's second in the Pacific and they're having a really great season, I think he will be. As we look here, McDavid leads the NHL with 108 points, followed by Huberdeau, who's got 102, Draisaitl with 101, Johnny Gaudreau has 99, and you got Matthews with 97, who's fifth. So does McDavid get nominated? Because I think McDavid has a better chance of being nominated than Draisaitl. Now that Draisaitl is likely going to finish second in the Rocket Richard race, and maybe he'll finish even 10 back of Austin Matthews, so it won't be that close, although it looked close earlier this week. Does Gaudreau get nominated? There's still a lot to be decided, because I think Yossi's got 87. He continues to put up points. He's tied for 8th in scoring. He's only 2 points out of 6, and he's a defenseman. I think if he gets to 100 points, I think he's a nominee. So that would mean it was Matthews, Yossi, and do they put McDavid in there? Is it Huberdeau? Gaudreau is going to have over 100 points. He's having a great year. Kachuk's got 89 quietly. The top line in Calgary is the best line in hockey. Gaudreau, Lindholm, and Kachuk. It just is. I get Matthews and Marner are great together, but those three are better than the third guy on that line is better than Bunting. So that line's the best in NHL. They continue to just dominate. I think Lindholm's got like 37 goals now. And I said this way back when. This was in November. The best player on the Calgary Flames team is the guy who has the third most points in that line. It's Elias Lindholm. He's the straw that stirs the drink. Those two players are fantastic. He's the best of that whole team. But I just got a text. I don't know if he's listening on the show, but he's talking about Matthews. Over under Matthews gets 60. I'm going to say over for sure. He's got 10 games left. 56. I'd be surprised if he doesn't get 65, quite frankly. 10 games. Got Montreal, I think, at least once or twice. You got Ottawa in there. You got Tampa and Florida again. Those aren't easy matchups. But you got some weaker divisional opponents down the stretch. I think Matthews wouldn't shock me to see him get to 65. which is a phenomenal season. And it would not shock me if he gets to 65, pushes for 70. We'll see. But if I had to guess, he's over that. But some big games this weekend. We'll touch on the NBA on Monday, just with the season's over. The regular season's over Sunday night. We'll get the playoff matchups. We'll get the playing games. We'll break those down next week. So we'll do that. But we'll be back on the air tomorrow morning. Cole McDonald, Seamus Fillmore, Casey Ward, and myself. We're going to have a little roundtable here in the studio. Talk about Augusta National. Talk about baseball, amongst other things. So hope you guys can all join us live tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. If you can't, find it on the podcast. But either way, have a great weekend. Enjoy the nice weather. This is To The Point.